Hey guys, check it out. You're watching Jonathan Clarke on YouTube. Oh no! We are celebrating the 10th anniversary of Descendants, and I am so honored to have the honor and the privilege to sit behind this podcast microphone and talk about all the memories that Descendants has left me with. I remember this as part of my childhood, and I'm sure many of you remember it as part of your childhood because the movie represented second chances. It represented acceptance. It represented you just being you for who you were or how you wanted to be accepted and perceived in life. It taught you valuable life lessons. It gave you a chance to really be what you wanted to aspire to be in life. For the first time ever, a Disney Channel franchise exploded in popularity, and for all the right reasons. It just wasn't like High School Musical or Hannah Montana, who just exploded for the sake of exploding. Disney's Descendants left a forever imprint on all of our hearts, and an imprint and an impact on all of our lives that we will never ever forget. I know, from my perspective and how I choose to look at it, Disney's Descendants will never ever be forgotten by my soul because it gave me a second chance to really stand out. It gave me a chance to really put things into perspective about my own life, what direction I was heading in, and it really saved my life. You guys saved my life. But perhaps I shouldn't say the Descendants franchise is what saved my life, because you guys as fans of the franchise is what saved my life. And if you want to listen to a guy on YouTube talking about Descendants in such a powerful way, then you're going to want to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you're going to want to keep it locked on this YouTube channel, because I'm incredibly proud of how far Dove Cameron, Sophia Carson, Cameron Boyce came in their lives, and how much of a profound impact and imprint they left on our hearts, and how much they changed all of our lives. Because the cool thing is about Descendants is everybody is so much stronger now because of Descendants. Girls now are signing up for the gym. Girls are signing up for the volleyball team, the swim team, track and field. Because years ago, people thought about signing up for the track and field team. Why sign up for the track and field team if you don't want to run? Why sign up for the volleyball team if you don't want to bounce a ball back and forth? Why sign up for the swim team if you don't want to swim and become stronger? Now they're signing up for it because they feel inspired by all of these characters, and that is such a huge honor and such a huge accolade to have on your resume now because of what Descendants did for each and every one of us. Now, I know that Descendants, the Rise of Reds franchise, received a lot of criticism, its fair share of criticism just last year, and still is, but I am so proud of people like Kylie Cantrell. I am so proud of people like Mila Baker. I am so proud of Ruby Rose Turner. God knows I am incredibly proud and supportive of Ruby because she became my favorite Descendants character. She became my favorite Descendants character because she didn't care what anybody thought of her, and she received her fair share of criticism, perhaps more criticism than anybody who was a part of the Rise of Red franchise, even more criticism than what Kylie Cantrell received, and she received a fair share of criticism. But the thing is, this franchise, this Rise of Red franchise, when you talk about Descendants, was so cool. And it was very different from the original franchise because I don't think the original cast was as fearless as what the new cast is, because they were up against a lot of criticism because, of course, we were coming out of the era of Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson. So they had to face their fair share of criticism, and they took it head on. That was the thing about the new Descendants cast, is they had more criticism perhaps faced with than any of the original cast members ever did. And they did such a fabulous job with that. I mean, Kylie Cantrell was waking up in tears, almost afraid to Google herself. It got to the point where Kylie Cantrell had to stop Googling herself because of all the criticism she was faced with. But even with all the criticism she was faced with, she did such a fabulous job to overcome that. And I have a lot of respect for Kylie Cantrell for being able to do that, because a lot of people would not have been able to do that. You take into consideration Demi Lovato, who cracked under pressure years ago because the fame really got to her. And when I say cracked under pressure, Demi Lovato really let the pressure get to her. I didn't know if Demi Lovato was ever going to be the same again. And as far as I'm concerned, Demi Lovato never was the same again because of how much pressure she was faced with. I mean, she couldn't deal with the fame. She couldn't deal with going everywhere where everybody knew who she was. It was terrible. Selena Gomez cracked under pressure too. So the thing is, Kylie Cantrell has yet to have this happen to her, and I hope it never ever happens to her. But I know it's never going to happen to people like Kylie Cantrell and Ruby Rose Turner because of the support of each and every one of you. The thing about the Descendants franchise is they have a never die, never quit attitude on the people they love so much, and I've experienced this. I know what this feels like. And for any other podcast host out there who is creating shows about specific niches, I know you don't feel like this and you don't experience this because you don't talk about Descendants of Zombies like I do, but I think that if you devoted your time to creating a show about this niche and talking about the stars of Descendants the way the fans want to hear you talk about it, you would experience a love unlike anything else you've ever experienced in your life. And because I experienced this and I know how dedicated and how much the fans of Descendants will love you for forever and eternally, I don't ever want to go anywhere else in my life. I am having the most fun that I've had in my entire 25-year career talking about Descendants of Zombies because I have love and support from fans unlike anything else that I've ever experienced in my life. I think everything about Descendants just makes perfect sense to me, about how the movie was about second chances. It was about finding your true love. It was about seeing your potential when others couldn't see it in you, because the movie persuaded you to find that potential within your own soul. It gave you the opportunity to question what you wanted to get the most out of life for, and that's what I really appreciated about this script and this cast, and this is why I hope that this franchise lasts eternally. Even if 20 years from now it's not Kylie Contrell, like she says she's going to be singing Descendants songs until she's 40 years old, which would be kind of cool and actually really sweet. It would be really cool to see Ruby Rose Turner reunite with the cast by the time we get to, say, Descendants 10 or something like that, or we had a big anniversary where the cast of the past and the present came together for one huge movie, or the Descendants and Zombies franchises came together for one huge movie. I mean, they did it with Nickelodeon all the time with iCarly and Victorious, so I can't see the reason why they couldn't do a movie where Descendants and Zombies combined the two franchises and just exploded in a crossover event. That would be really cool. I would also like to see 10 years from now a TV series called Oridon, where they focused on the students at Oridon Prep, perhaps the kids of people like Bridget and Red and Chloe and Mal. That would be so fun if they just kept expanding off of this franchise, because it was really beautiful. Everything about it made sense to me. The music was just so eye-catching. The scenes were so eye-catching. The color schemes of the characters from red to blue to purple were gorgeous, and how they identified themselves through character traits were unbelievable. The power of Maleficent, the mystery behind Evie and the evil queen, who had no backstory whatsoever. It was just it was just an eye-catching franchise where you didn't know what was going to happen from one moment to the next. While the plot seemed to be so obvious, people made the plot take so many twists and turns, which made it that much more unpredictable, because they didn't want to be so obviously identified in what was going to happen next. And then came Zombies with such a plot that just kept you guessing from chapter to chapter and movie to movie. Even though there was a 2-year window, everybody was so excited in between the releases of Zombies because they didn't know what was going to happen next. From one moment you were talking about zombies, then you were talking about werewolves by Zombies 2, aliens by Zombies 3. And the funny thing was, actually, just yesterday, I was reading a story about how apparently there's an alien spacecraft, a UFO, an alien spacecraft, on the way to Earth. Now, I'll have more on this in an upcoming video on my YouTube channel, where I'll prepare you for the potentiality of a zombie invasion or something along those lines, because apparently there is an unidentified object making its way towards Earth to come and kill us all. But I'll have more on that. But the cool thing is how people actually fell in love with these franchises, and fell in love with these franchises so quickly, and still see themselves through the eyes of characters such as Mal and Edie and Carlos. To this day, 10 years later after the premiere of Descendants, everybody is still so excited about Descendants, which is such a huge honor. It's really an honor for me to be able to sit behind this podcast microphone and talk about and critique Descendants in the way that it's been meant to be talked about and critiqued for what feels like forever. For me, the original Descendants movies will forever hold a special place in my heart. I'm sure that I can speak for a lot of people who were fans of the original cast. I'm probably going to get 1,000 views on this video, because I think a lot of people are focusing a little bit too much on the new cast. Obviously, they would have to focus on the new cast and the new plot, because, of course, Descendants 5, Wicked Wonderland is what's garnering all the attention now, because we're a year away from the premiere of it. And I'm really excited about this upcoming year. But I think more people need to be focusing on, the nostalgia, the nostalgic feeling that the original Descendants gave us, because that was really a feeling of nostalgia that I think a lot of people miss, and a lot of people prefer the original cast. And there are some really dedicated, die-hard fans of the original cast out there that will never quit on Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson and their friendship. I think one of the biggest reasons why you will never quit on the original cast is because of the friendships we saw between Dove Cameron, Sophia Carson, Cameron Boyce, Boo Boo Stewart. Unbelievable how supportive they were of each other, how highly they spoke of each other. But they're talking highly of each other too. The Worlds Collide tour, the introductions of the stars on stage were done individually by all the stars of Descendants. So Kylie Cantrell shows up on stage after being introduced by Mila Baker. Then Kylie Cantrell introduced Joshua Colley. They spoke so highly of each other on the stage for the Worlds Collide tour, which showed me that there was a lot of chemistry between them, which is something that is really critical and really crucial for a franchise exploding. So that same kind of honor was given to the stars for the new franchise, and we still saw that years after. We saw the popularity of Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson exceed the expectations of anybody. Years ago, I knew that this franchise was going to hold something special in all of our hearts and forever have a special place in all of our hearts, because I was one of the only YouTubers years ago that would find something good to talk about everything. I found something good to talk about Snow White. I found something good to talk about Tangled. I found something good to talk about Frozen, because it deserved to have something nice said about it, no matter how many critics and how much criticism it had out there and it was faced with. I always found something nice to talk about when it came to Descendants and Zombies, because it deserved to have something nice said about it. And what really irritated me was how so many people were just finding the negatives to talk about when it came to Descendants and Zombies. And I became really irritated by that, because I knew there were tens of millions of fans of Descendants and Zombies that had deserved to hear something nicer for far long enough. And I just wanted to create a show where you could actually watch videos that you knew the host of the show was going to be incredibly supportive of your favorite stars. No matter if that was Dove Cameron, no matter if that was Kylie Cantrell, no matter if that was Sophia Carson, no matter if that was Ruby, who, oh God, I miss Ruby so much. I've been crying myself to sleep ever since I heard that Ruby was parting ways with the Descendants franchise, because I said this yesterday and I'll say this again. There's just something about Ruby's voice being incredibly satisfying on the song Life is Sweeter When You Are, and I will say this until the day that I die. That's going to have to be my song at my funeral. They're going to be carrying my casket out of my funeral to the song Life is Sweeter When You Are, honest to God. Ruby is such a beautiful person, and I miss her dearly, and for the life of me, I don't know how you could produce Descendants 5 without Ruby Rose Turner. I don't know how you would have been able to produce the original Descendants without stars such as Dove Cameron, Sophia Carson, and for sure Cameron Boyce. We can't remember the 10th anniversary of Descendants without mentioning Cameron Boyce and how much of a profound impact he had on not only just his own life and his own career, but also the stars of Descendants. Everybody he ever had the opportunity to work with, he brought the best out of not only himself, but he brought the best out of everybody he worked with. And I think that potential was really recognized when Cameron Boyce worked with you on the set of a TV series like Jesse or Bunked or Descendants, because he really brought the best out of people like Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson and were true inspirations to them. I have to tell you, I miss Cameron Boyce dearly, and that's why I do a lot of Cameron Boyce tribute videos and why I received worldwide popularity, because of my thoughts on Cameron Boyce, because I thought that as a YouTuber, when you're reviewing somebody like a career of Cameron Boyce, you have to realize how much of a profound impact he had on the lives of the people he worked with and all the fans. There are millions of girls who have cried to me in comments about how much they miss Cameron Boyce, and I want you to know, while I read your comments, my heart is with each and every single one of you, because you don't deserve to have to go through such painful loss. Nobody in this world, take it from a guy who's lost a lot of people in his life that meant so much to him, nobody in this world at such young ages should have to deal with such personal loss like you've had to deal with the loss of Cameron Boyce, or perhaps personal loss in your own lives. I want you to know that this happens because it has to happen. It's inevitable, and there's nothing that we can do about it. But even though there's nothing that we can do about it to counteract death, the way that we handle it is being there for each other. That's how we do it. So we know that death is eventually going to come for us, but the thing is, we have people who are together with us in life and will stay with us for forever. And I think that if we stay with each other forever, there is no amount of darkness that we can't overcome. Because no matter how much darkness we are faced with, the Descendants fans and the Zombies fans are the light out of every darkness that we may encounter. And I want you to know that when you can't make sense of your own life because you can't understand why this is happening to you or why this happened to you, you will always have me, and you will always have this YouTube channel to help you make sense of why Descendants and Zombies have had such a profound impact on all of our lives and all of our hearts. I also noticed the appreciation that we hear from people like Dove Cameron and Kylie Cantrell, more especially Kylie Cantrell in recent years, because while Dove Cameron passed the torch to Kylie Cantrell and kind of forgot about Descendants and is trying to put her Disney past behind her, Kylie Cantrell is doing such a fabulous job representing the Descendants franchise as Red. Such a powerful, fearless representation of what the Queen of Hearts daughter should have been or was meant to have been. You know, years ago, I think that when people envisioned if Disney villains would have had kids, I think that Kylie Cantrell would have been the perfect representation of what the Queen of Hearts daughter would have been represented by. And not just the Queen of Hearts daughter, but also all these other characters that were portrayed by people like Sophia Carson, who had no backstory whatsoever. She really had to do her research on the Queen of Hearts because there was no, or the Evil Queen, because there was no backstory for people like the Evil Queen. And even the Queen of Hearts, there was no backstory. So because there was no backstory for the Evil Queen and the Queen of Hearts, people like Ruby Rose Turner and Sophia Carson had to go over and above and beyond the requirements of a star, an actress, to really bring these characters to life and bring the best out of the character, because their future with the Descendants franchise was really at stake. Nobody knew how the audience was going to perceive a young Queen of Hearts. Nobody knew how the audience was going to perceive a young evil queen through Sophia Carson and Ruby Rose Turner's eyes. And they did such a fabulous job doing that. You know, I remember watching all the classics, Alice in Wonderland, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, Aurora's daughter being portrayed, Audrey being portrayed by Sarah Jeffries, a Canadian actress who I am incredibly fond of. There are so many people in this Descendants franchise who are never given enough credit. Brenda D'Amico, Sarah Jeffries, who brought all the characters to life and in such an unbelievable way that I don't think anyone is ever going to forget. I know that a lot of you probably thought of yourselves when you saw Bridget being portrayed by Ruby Rose Turner for The Rise of Red, how she was being bullied. Perhaps some of you are going through that same kind of thing. I want you to know that you're not alone, because I went through that in high school. I was tripped up, I was made fun of, I was locked in lockers. Point being, anything that somebody could have had done to them in the way of bullying, I had happened to me. But it didn't stop me from going to school and getting my degree in journalism and creating this unbelievable YouTube channel for each and every one of you. It inspired me. It inspired me to become stronger, and I saw myself through the eyes of these characters and Descendants more than I've ever admitted to you on this podcast. When I saw Bridget being treated the way she was in The Rise of Red, I thought of myself. And I thought of myself in all these situations, and how in the world did I ever overcome it? I overcame it because I had a few really good friends that helped me a lot through life. I had 3 or 4 really good friends. I still keep in contact with them occasionally, not as much as I probably did a decade ago, but I had some really good friends. And what I believed in was you only needed 3 or 4 really good friends as opposed to having, 100 friends and being the most popular guy in your school. If you could go through your whole life with those same 3 or 4 really good friends and hold on to those friends, then you're going to make it in life. And you mightn't think that you're going to make it in life, but you really are, because you have support of people who have what's called unconditional love. And that's what I really appreciated about the Descendants stars like Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson, Kylie Cantrell and Mila Baker, is this unconditional love and support that they have for each other. Kylie Cantrell went through some of the most ridiculous situations in her life and has been through with boyfriends who couldn't understand her from what she wanted to be represented by, her choices in life. Just last year, she got out of a really bad relationship where she believed the guy didn't deserve to be talked about, and my heart goes out to Kylie Cantrell for everything she had to endure, both personally and professionally. It was bad enough she was faced with so much criticism, but she was also being faced with so much trouble in her relationship off of camera, which a lot of people didn't really understand or see, because Kylie was covering it up. She was hiding her tears. And just recently, just last year, I saw this video on TikTok where she was crying so much, and it really broke my heart. I wish I could have been there for Kylie to hold her, just to let her know that everything was going to be okay. And I'm sure a lot of you feel sympathetic about that and how I feel about that, and would probably do the same thing for Kylie. Perhaps, I really don't know. But if I could speak for everybody, I'm sure the same thing. There's just something about seeing tears in the eyes of Kylie Cantrell that I don't like, that has always pulled at my heartstrings and has left me at a loss for words. Kylie has not only left me at a loss for words because of what she's had to endure personally, but she's also left me at a loss for words with how unbelievable she is and how much talent she has. Obviously, that idiot guy she was with couldn't recognize the talent and potential she had, or perhaps he did, and that's what made him jealous. I think it's a situation where he was just so jealous of all the success Kylie Cantrell was seeing in her career, and of course she had the support of her dad and her mom, who, growing up in a dance home, must have been an incredible honor for Kylie Cantrell, because growing up in a dance home gave her the opportunity to understand choreographing, what really goes on behind the scenes, and what it really takes to be an actress. And after having seen Descendants and Zombies at such young ages, at 9 years old, and feeling so inspired by franchises like High School Musical and Descendants, to have all these honorable roles and represent characters in the franchises she grew up watching and reviewing on her YouTube show Hello Kylie years ago, which I was subscribed to. I was one of the first people to subscribe to Kylie Control's YouTube channel, 500,000 subscribers later. Hey Kylie, can I have some of your subscribers? I would love for a bunch of people to hit my subscribe button, by the way. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you're probably going to want to do that because you're going to see a lot of anniversary videos about Descendants and the 10th anniversary of Descendants, which actually happens tomorrow on this YouTube channel. I started talking about the 10th anniversary of Descendants because I couldn't hold on any longer. I wanted to start talking about the anniversary of Descendants as soon as possible because I wanted to be one of the first videos to be uploaded about the 10th anniversary of Descendants because this is so special. And holds a special place in all of our hearts. I mean, who out there isn't a fan of Descendants? Even if you say you're not a fan of Descendants and you're annoyed by how many Descendants movies they've made, what is this, the 5th Descendants movie now? I don't believe you because everybody is a Descendants fan in one way or another. If you weren't a Descendants fan, you wouldn't have went to the Worlds Collide tour. If you weren't a Descendants fan, you wouldn't be talking about Dove Cameron and Kylie Control and watching their music videos and buying their EPs off KylieControl.com and MegDonnelly.com. The thing is, fans are supportive of Descendants, and they don't even realize how supportive they are of it. But the one thing that I will never, ever forget about Descendants is just how incredibly never-quit attitudes really shine through, and how they love the person who creates videos for them so much. I've experienced this firsthand, and it's an honor. It really is an honor to be able to sit behind this podcast microphone and create such beautiful videos and content for the people who have deserved to hear far better and see far better than what they've been seeing on YouTube. It's ridiculous. These AI videos that make no sense, these videos that are really letting a lot of people down because all they've ever wanted to do is sing their favorite Descendants songs, meet their favorite Descendants stars, and through these meet and greets, people come out by the thousands. I mean, originally, people were only expecting 300 or 400 people for each Descendants and Zombies meet and greet, and thousands of people would show up coming out in unison to support their favorite Descendants and Zombie stars. And Disney has recognized this because they have expanded on the franchises every single chance they get rather than just closing the book on it. Because the reality of it is, at the conclusion of the original Descendants trilogy following the death of Cameron Boyce, they could have used that as an excuse. They could have said, okay, we've told the story, we've completed it, we don't need to have a conclusion reached or a climax for a future Descendants project. And 5 years after a 5-year hiatus break, here comes Descendants and it explodes in popularity. I think it's more popular than ever before after it was receiving so much criticism. But that's what happens on the internet. Everybody who has a podcast will find the negative to review. They won't look at the positive and the potentiality that exists. Special Descendants. The reality of this is it will forever and always hold a special place in all of our hearts, and I'm really excited to see where we go from here with these franchises. Do I think we'll see Descendants 6, 7, 8 like that and forward? Yes, I do, because there's so much potential that exists with these characters. I think there is so much potential left to be seen, and so many characters that could yet to see their introduction into the Descendants franchise. The daughter or son of Rapunzel. The daughter or son of the Little Mermaid. Milan's character, who was in Descendants 2, didn't have a whole lot of emphasis on her, the daughter of Milan. I think there could have been something examined for the potentiality of, say, Jay's character, or Boo Boo Stewart, who played Jay, having something to do with Milan's character, because there seemed to be a little bit of a flair or a little bit of a romance happening there. So there's so much in the way of unanswered questions from the original cast. Again, you know, you're talking about stories that could be created and written for Descendants. There is so much of a story left to be written for the original cast too, and for reasons for them to return and have a reunion kind of feel brought to the movie. They mentioned how Mal and Evie and Carlos and Jay went on to distant lands to spread the message of Auradon. I mean, that's a movie in its own right, how those four characters went on to distant lands to spread the message of Auradon and to invite people to attend Auradon Prep. Inviting people to attend Auradon Prep is one way of looking at it, or turning the movie into a TV series called Auradon. But there's so much potentiality to create with this, and create is a word that I use a lot with Descendants because there's so much potentiality to create off of the histories of these stars, because they are so historical, the legends behind these characters. And take it from a guy who lives in such a legendary island where there are so many ghost stories and stories about fairy tales and all kinds of there's so much of a chance with this, and I think that we just shouldn't give up on it so soon. People saw the first 3 original Descendants movies and said, okay, that's it, enough is enough, we don't need to create any more Descendants movies, they need to stop making Descendants movies. That's jumping to a conclusion. I think there's so much of an opportunity, especially with how much of an inspiration these movies have been to so many people. The thing is, these movies have inspired millions of people, so because it inspires millions of people, you're just going to kill off the franchise? No, you're not going to kill off the franchise, because this franchise will forever hold a special place in the heart of Kylie Cantrell. I get that from the interviews I see Kylie Cantrell doing for these popular podcasts. She says she's going to be singing Descendants songs when she's 40 years old. And if, in fact, she is singing Descendants songs when she's 40 years old, more power to her. I'm going to encourage her to do it. Because I don't ever want to see a child's dreams and hopes taken away from them. I never ever wanted to do that with this podcast. I wanted to encourage that. And I will forever be here to encourage that, because every dream can come true. Every dream can become a reality. All you have to do, as cliche as it sounds, is believe in yourself and believe in magic, because magic does exist. Magic does exist. And if you're wondering if everything is going to be okay, it is going to be okay. Why is it going to be okay? Because it has to be. Descendants will forever and always hold a special place in my heart and in all of yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this retrospective look at the history of Descendants. I will have more where this goes later on throughout this afternoon and into this evening, and I hope you will join me for it as we celebrate and commemorate the 10th anniversary of Descendants. God, I miss the original cast so much, but I love the new cast that much more. I really do, and I miss Ruby Rose Turner. Where art thou, Ruby? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until I talk to you later on this afternoon, believe in magic, be kind to one another because it does exist, and being kind to one another goes further than a lot of you probably have remembered. Bye, YouTube. We will do this again in a few hours from now. Be kind to one another.